Hey guys, welcome to the Sip It and Rip It podcast. I'm the Lick-a-Lot-a-Puss. This 240 pounds of grade A American beef right here, aka the Dairy Delight. We're just gonna move it on over for him today.
I, in fact, am a cow with no udders.
You can find us on Instagram at Lick-a-Lot-a-Puss and at
you can't really
the
say
Dairy Delight.
I was about to say you can't say Dairy Delight because then they'll find that restaurant. They'll be like, what the hell's going on here?
More seriously, you can find me at ZG Summer Shredding Journey, and you can find him at Nathan Skedios. You can find the podcast at Sip It and Rip It. Give it a listen. Give us 5 stars.
5 stars on
5
Spotify.
stars on Spotify. I'm still cracked up by
the introduction that took us like 5 minutes to get through.
how many times we attempted this.
If you want to see all the bloopers, let us know and we'll release them. And I will actually get my ass together and put those reels out because they're really funny.
Yeah.
It's mostly just us laughing.
Yep. Hopefully this podcast won't go extinct.
We're going to milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, man.
That's utterly ridiculous. Oh.
I kind of feel like I wish a meteor would just hit us.
Oh, God.
All right. So I think we spent all the time we had on like small talk here. Jim, this week? No, drinks.
Oh, yeah,
Drinks.
talk about our drinks.
Let's talk about our first experience first.
Oh, yeah. So a friend of mine was kind enough to gift the liquor to us today. He gave us 2 things. He gave us a very, very fine bottle of Woodford Reserve Double Oak, which we're drinking on an old fashioned of right now, and it was great. But he also gave us some moonshine cherries that are made with homemade moonshine. And we cracked the top off these things, and they just smelled like cherries. You couldn't tell there was any alcohol in them.
Yeah, it smelled like cherries with cherry juice.
Until you ate one, and then you immediately felt like you just swallowed jet fuel. And we may or may not. Nathan likes to blame my inability to give an introduction today on the fact that I had the jet fuel cherry. But they were good, I guess.
If you like
flammable things.
If you like feeling your mouth explode, like as soon as you bite into the cherry and the alcohol hits your mouth, it's like, oh God, I'm on fire now. That's about the experience that I had.
Yeah, that's
my eyes were watering.
Rough. But in lieu of that, we have made a strawberry old fashioned with the Woodford Double Oak, and it's pretty tasty.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not bad. We drink a lot of old fashions on this show. Apparently, we're just whiskey drinkers.
I mean, I started with rum, like that was my go-to because it was a little easier to drink, and then I got into, I think it was Maker's Mark was the first.
Maker's is a really good introduction.
I think so too because it's really smooth and it's tasty. So
yeah, I drink a lot of Woodford, but my favorite will forever and always be Basil Hayden's. We need to do a Basil Hayden's cocktail one day. Maybe we need to make some sidecars. Have you ever had a whiskey sidecar? I'd do that one day.
I know. I had a car bomb at your. I think it was Austin's birthday party.
His bachelor party.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, those things are a little bit rough, and I'm not sure those are PC, bud. Irish car bombs.
I mean, I don't know if people would think we're very PC considering the last episode that we had
and the one upcoming.
Yeah.
Here. Oh well.
Yeah.
I guess we're just too conservative, just a couple old dinosaurs.
Yep.
Oh God.
Oh.
I guess y'all can prepare yourselves for for a pretty healthy serving of cow and dinosaur jokes.
You think they're gonna grill us?
Probably.
If this hasn't turned off you by this point, then thank you. You're one of our supporters, one of our avid listeners.
Yep.
So now that we've gotten that out of the way, It's not out of the way. It's not out of the way.
No, there's going to be more jokes made.
Gym this week. What's been going on?
I actually had a pretty good gym week considering the amount of pain I've been in. I did Tom Platz's leg workout yesterday. I'm still standing.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Dom's is setting in. I've gotten progressively sore as today but I'll tell you this: it's bad enough that a 500 plus pound squatter, it's 12 sets of 20, and it's supposed to all be on the barbell.
Mm-hmm.
Of the 12 sets I did 9 sets of body weight unweighted squats. I did 2 sets with an empty barbell and 1 set with a 25 on the bar.
Are you going to try and do all of it with an empty barbell next time, or?
I think I'm going to try all with an empty barbell across the board next time. But it was brutal. The rest of it was pretty easy. I didn't have a hack squat, so I did substitute for wall sits, and wall sits were pretty brutal if you haven't done those in a while. It was pretty.
Were you not in Hartsville?
No, I had to do it at Alpha yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So, the hamstring curl and the leg extensions weren't too bad. But man, that 12 sets of 20.
Yeah, no. I hate doing 5 sets of 20 on like the leg extensions and stuff. I can't imagine trying to do 12.
There's something, honestly, there comes a point where it becomes cathartic in a way. It really does. I know you kind of think I'm crazy, but like it really does. After about the 6th set, when you get to head about halfway through, everything hurts so goddamn bad.
It just don't matter anymore.
It just about don't matter. But me and my friend, who's a listener, Grady Malone, decided to do that, and I found it, talked him into it. He should have protested harder than he did. But we attempted that, and I'll tell you what, man, it would have been really brutal if we would have had access to a hack squat.
Yeah.
To have to go 5 sets of 15 on hack squats after, 240 reps of back squat would have been.
I already hate my 4 sets of 20, or it's 5 sets of 20 on hack squat. I already hate that, so I can't imagine doing that after 12 sets of 20.
Well, listen, it's not like I probably can't load 315 on the bar and do sets of 10 right now because of my hips. So volume's kind of my best friend right now. It's the only way my legs are going to grow at the moment. So
that is true.
Just do what I can. So that's one reason why I wanted to do it. And it was fucking rough. I can tell you that much. It was fucking rough. But so what did you do?
I'm rolling back like 10 minutes now. But if you're listening and you're not watching or you have no idea what's going on, we're in some pajamas.
Yeah, I'm in a Triceratops onesie.
And I'm in a cow onesie. So just in case you're listening and they're like, what the fuck are they laughing about so much? That's what we're
That's what's wrong with us.
There's definitely something wrong with us. Anyway, the gym, it was my week 1, so I did 515 for 8 on deadlifts, which was okay. Didn't feel too bad. 315 for 8 on bench. And side note there, Austin Blair, on his vacation, decided he was going to do 315 for 10.
Just 10?
But, just more than me. I thought he was going to stop at 9.
Did he do multiple sets, though?
I have no idea. He just posted that one video of him doing 315.
That's cheesy, bro. I thought you were an MMA fighter or something now.
He is saying something about trying to get into jiu-jitsu, but yeah, just a little side note there. I'll be going for 345 for 8 in 2 weeks. So if you're listening, Austin, that's your cue to load up 345 and hit it for 10. If you think you can.
He'll find a way to try.
For sure. Especially if I poke him on it.
Pokemon
it. Oh shit! And squats 405 for 8, and they felt like trash, and my lower back was fried. But we're still trying to fix that. So we'll fix it one day, or I will no longer have a low back. So.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't have to bell that squat and end up on your ass. Could have been ground beef. I'm spilling my drink now. Don't you love how I try to keep myself from saying it?
I could see it in your face, and I knew you were going to say it. So I was just waiting patiently. I was like, I know you got something. So let's just go ahead and get it out there. Oh man, you got PR songs?
Yeah, I got one at least.
I have to grab my phone.
Just brought one today, but I've listened to this song 6 or 7 times today, and I told Sandy at some point today, I was like, I think I might go to Hartsel like in the middle of the night when I get everything done just to lift because of this song. But Loyal to None by Kublai Khan. Song fucking rips. I have listened to it literally all day, and it's so rare for me to do that with a hardcore metal song. But man, that song's fucking good.
I think I have a hardcore song too, actually, which is kind of yeah. So it's called Junkie Sprite by The Last 10 Seconds of Life. Cool. If I haven't put that on there already, it's pretty hardcore.
We got Last 10 Seconds of Life, but I don't think we have that song.
Okay. I'd be surprised if it wasn't that one, if we have it on there, unless it was something you picked, because that's like my favorite, like...
I think we have a song or two of them on there, but I'm pretty sure it's not that one. May have been me that put it on there, because I do listen to them some too, so...
Either way, it's a good song, and that's been on my rotation here lately, so...
Hell yeah.
So if it's not already on there, it should be on there, and if it is already on there, kudos to me in the past for putting it on there, but shame on me in the future for not knowing that I put it on there already.
I hear you. I'm nothing from that album yet, I don't think, but that I would put on the PR playlist. But really excited about the new Acacia Strain album that we're getting here in the next several weeks. Should be fucking awesome.
They always put out good stuff.
They always put out good stuff. And then the child in me will not allow me to not listen to it, but I can tell you certifiably that the new Metallica record sucks.
Oh man,
72 seasons.
I saw it on Spotify, and I was just kind of like,
nah. And when it sucks because I think the last one they actually got a little bit closer to being them again. Mm-hmm. Like I kind of liked Moth into the Flame and Hardwired and all that shit was actually kind of fucking went hard. And now this shit's like load or reload era Metallica. Like it's pretty fucking weak. Like. Yeah. I'm sure all you part-time Metallica fans that listen to more fucking Cody Johnson than you do real music, I'm sure y'all will like it fine because you have bad fucking taste. But let's be honest, your favorite Metallica song is probably Enter Sandman. You know.
Yeah, and probably. They listen to it on the radio like every day. And...
Yeah. When they're editing their Grindr accounts and everything else.
So, shit, I just lost it. Oh, so something is really interesting, just because you brought it up, because Metallica is an 80s band. If I'm remembering this right, from where we are now to the 90s is what the 90s, or the early 2000s to the 70s and 80s was like oldies. So now, like, Metallica would actually be considered oldies?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean... You can listen to like Nirvana and Pearl Jam on classic rock stations now. So and a lot of that shit came out after all the seminal Metallica records, after the first 4. And Justice for All was 1989, and then the Black Album, which is basically, if you're a real Metallica fan, you consider that to be the death of Metallica. Black Album came out in 90 or 91, right? So
it was just a couple of years later. So
yeah. So like, that's
Metallica's
pretty crazy.
Metallica's oldies now.
Yeah, I mean, it's
well,
been, I'm 30. I was born in 89 and I'm 34. So, I mean, it's a long ass fucking time ago. So, yep. It's hard to believe one of my favorite records of all the time, being Master of Puppets, is older than I am.
When did that come out?
85 or 86.
Okay. I was thinking 84, but.
Kill 'Em All was 81. I don't remember.
Okay, I always thought Kill 'Em All was in 79.
It might have been written by that point, but at that point, Dave Mustaine still would have been in the band. But I think the Metallica release is probably 81. It might have been 80, but I think it's 80, 81. Yep.
Yeah. How do you feel? How do you feel about that? About how Metallica kicked Dave Mustaine out, kind of just like out of nowhere, as soon as they got signed? How do you feel about that? I know this is kind of like a real random tangent.
Yeah. So. As a musician, I do think Megadeth is a much more talented group of men, much more talented players and stuff like that. As just a metalhead in general, that early Metallica stuff is so violent, where Megadeth stuff is not near as vile and near as violent and near as like. There's just a soul about that old Metallica stuff that just isn't there. And I don't know if you know this, but a lot of Kill 'Em All, a lot of those riffs end up on the first Megadeth record too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of carryover, but Dave's a better musician, so I mean, I can't think of when I think of Metallica, I never think of Kirk Hammett. I think of James Hetfield and Cliff Burton.
Yeah, that's true.
Never think about Kirk Hammett and Lars Ulrich.
Lars is kind of like the most generic drummer to ever exist.
And I know James Hetfield's cheesy and all now, and you know his voice got gradually cheesier and cheesier, but that dude's a fucking man, and to think that dude's somebody's grandpa just fucking blows my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, that guy's fucking awesome. Hetfield's one of my all-time favorite people. And Mustaine is too, but you know, I do think that they stand alone, and I actually am pretty grateful because I'm a pretty big fan of both bands.
That's fair.
Megadeth has been consistently better than Metallica.
They release albums that are much more similar to their old stuff. Like their
it's still albums. When you listen to a new Megadeth record, it still feels like you're listening to Megadeth.
Yeah, whereas Metallica kind of just like I understand wanting to like change it up and like doing different stuff, right?
Post Black Album, they're a cock rock band. They're like it's like fucking listening to Creed past.
I don't know if it's that bad.
It's not that bad, but like it's.
But I understand what you mean.
And I honestly think that they ushered in the worst era in metal music ever, with the exception of pretty much with the exception of Slipknot and the Deftones. Mm-hmm. That bad '90s Metallica shit ushered in new metal, and that shit's the reason why we have bands like Disturbed, and that fucking sucks.
I think you are the sole reason why I listen to less Disturbed, just because I hear you shit on them all the time.
God,
I used to listen. I used to listen to them all the time. I was also a lot younger.
That first album is one of the cheesiest, most atrocious things that I've ever heard before.
It kind of got me into metal. Well, it was really their third album that really kind of like got me introduced into like more rock stuff. So. Yeah. It was that and Ride the Lightning and Killswitch Engage. Actually, it was kind of like a very, very aggressive turn. Like,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. When I was a kid, I loved Godsmack.
Yeah. I listened to that.
A handful of the early Godsmack albums were okay, and some of those are. I wouldn't say that I enjoy it, but they're listenable.
Right.
They find their way on gym playlists all the time, and I think that's odd because to me that's not heavy music.
Yeah,
But it's not the worst. And then,
right?
you know, as a bass player, I listen to the shit out of Limp Bizkit, and I even downloaded the new album. First of all, the new album has one guitar lick on it that makes you want to run through a goddamn wall. It's the main guitar lick and Out of Style, and that riff kicks so much ass that you almost forget about how bad the rest of the song is. But yeah, I mean, it brought in. Now it's an era I grew up with, but it probably ushered in the worst era of metal music.
Do you hate Static X?
I hate Static X. Hate Wayne Static.
Oh man, that
stuff was so bad. But I mean, we did. You know, the good thing is we did get Deftones and Slipknot out of it, and Slipknot's pretty for radio friendly metal. It's still pretty fucking heavy.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we've kind of also gotten to a point where people are more accepting to play heavy stuff on the radio.
That's probably true.
Especially like in other countries. I think it was Australia. They actually had like their version of America's Got Talent or whatever. And there was this lady that came on, and I can't remember what metal song she was like singing, but it was like heavy.
Was it not a Spirit Box song or Courtney LaPlante singing? She did not cover one of those.
I don't remember.
But you know, like Behemoth, like top 10 Billboard charts in Europe most of the time when they debut. Protest the Hero from Canada is, you know, they're not even internationally a really big band. They're pretty much main success pretty much limited to their home country of Canada, and they chart like America has really bad fucking taste. Specifically in entertainment and music, it's incredibly bad. Yeah. And I like a lot of rap. The problem is it's
the type of rap.
Yeah, people aren't seeking out like good rap. Like not everybody's listening to Kendrick Lamar and Killer Mike and like old shit. And there's plenty of new shit that's good. Tyler, the Creator's fucking awesome. Like I said, Kendrick Lamar, shit like that. But people just don't take the time to seek out good music.
Yeah, it's mostly just like mumble rap and like just garbage.
It is, man. And, you know, I admit that there's a Future song or two I like, but like, man, that shit sucks. Like, Drake sucks. Like, the song is fucking, I mean, it's fucking bad. Like, it's not real rap at all. Like, I don't know, growing up on like Biggie and Wu-Tang and shit like that is pretty, I think we're pretty fucking far removed from what rap was and originally intended to be.
What about 3-6 Mafia?
3-6 Mafia is fucking awesome.
Okay.
But, you know, like, when Wu-Tang started, you know, like, their first, like, 3 or 4 records, they refused to, I mean, well, not 3 or 4 records, because they did it, like, as a collective, so even their individual things has other members of Wu-Tang on it, but, you know, like, listen to 36 Chambers, they intentionally didn't have a hook in any of their songs. Like, it was just one rapper's verse, the next rapper's verse, like, and it was kind of fucking awesome, you know, it was about their lives, and it was a good story, stuff like that, and what some of the better things about rap. And Biggie's an awesome storyteller. People say that about country music, right? Like, and I'll admit, better country music typically is fronted by somebody that tells a better story. You think about, like, Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash wasn't a good musician or a good singer, but Johnny Cash told a story.
Right.
Biggie was like that. Biggie told a story. Wu-Tang told a story. Kendrick Lamar tells a story. Fucking Migos and Future they don't fucking tell stories. Drake doesn't tell. If he tells one, he doesn't tell a good story. You know what I mean? It's not compelling. You know what I mean? So It just is what it is. So I think music's people are pretty sad, but, you know, I think that, you know, the rest of the world's a little bit better than we are, to be honest with you. They still appreciate music as an art and not just, you know,
sound. Yeah. Background music for their TikTok videos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
fucking bullshit. TikTok getting banned in Massachusetts.
I feel like Montana.
Montana.
Yeah, it's a long way from being banned in Massachusetts, buddy.
I couldn't remember which. Yeah, I just remember hearing one of them.
One of those things, but yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty. Even pop music, I think we're pretty far away from what it used to be. Like, I think about like early seminal like Madonna records are just honestly fucking awesome. Even from a musician standpoint, they're fucking awesome. And to think we have traded that for
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift at least writes her own music, but we've traded that.
That's fair. I mean,
we have traded that for some pretty fucking bad
Nicki Minaj.
I'm not going to shit on Nicki completely. I'm a pretty big fan of Doja Cat, and I'm also a pretty big fan of Cardi B. Actually cracks me up, and I think she's actually super talented. But it's still, it was a good point though. We're pretty fucking far removed from even what pop music was. I mean, I don't like the Beatles, but we're pretty fucking far removed from the Beatles being pop music. Like,
yeah, it's true.
Pretty goddamn far removed. Like even music I don't like, we're so far removed from what it used to be. Like country music, like is light years different from Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Just blows my fucking mind. Is what it is.
That was a long ass tangent. from going from how do you feel about Dave Mustaine being kicked out?
Well, I'll tell you, this is a good transition. I guess you know, today's popular music can identify as good music if it wants to, because they're 2023 and we can be anything we want to be. Like Nathan can be a cow and I can be a triceratops.
Right. Today I am a cow. Tomorrow I don't think I'll be a cow though.
I might change my mind about being a triceratops. I might not.
Yeah. You can go to the gym as a triceratops.
Yeah. Doesn't got me feeling awful horny. Because I have 3 of them. 3 horns. It's a horn joke. And the podcast is over.
We're done. We're clocking out, going home. I'm already home, but thank you guys so much for listening.
It is what it is. So, unfortunately, we get to talk about a continuation of the last episode.
Yep. I'm trying to pull up that stuff that I sent you so I can kind of like...
He's pulling up facts, but pretty much what we're talking about is the state of Minnesota has basically ordered the USAPL to cease operation in the state because they said that they did not want transgendered athletes competing in the USAPL, specifically ones that have transitioned from male to female.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just going to read this article from NPR News. I won't read the whole thing. I may, if you want to read the whole thing, just all you literally have to do is type in USAPL Minnesota, and you'll probably see NPR News on there.
I will say this too. While me and Nathan we do have opinions on it that you might not have. I do try to let you know some of these news organizations we read from. Last week we read from a conservative one. NPR is a liberal news source. They don't necessarily, neither one of those things necessarily reflect me and Nathan's opinions on it. So you don't have to grill us, like Nathan said earlier, and you don't have to wish an asteroid hits us.
Yeah,
but we're just finding relative articles, regardless of what side the source may be from.
Right.
So.
All right, so they start by saying a Ramsey County District Court judge has ruled that USA Powerlifting illegally discriminated against transgender woman who was barred from participating in women's powerlifting competitions. Released Monday night, he ordered USA Powerlifting to immediately stop discriminating according to sexual identity and to revise their policies within 2 weeks. Says here in 2018, J.C. Cooper's request to compete in women's powerlifting was denied by USA Powerlifting officials, told by the organization's medical director that male to female transgenders are not allowed to compete as females in our static strength sport, as it is a direct competitive advantage, which I think everyone we have talked to so far has agreed that that is factual. Like, there's no one that has said, oh, well, you should let them compete anyway. Everyone has said, no, that's pretty unfair to let them compete when they've already developed as a man for a period of time.
Not to mention, too, and something kind of a continuation of an idea you and I had, the USAPL is a drug-tested federation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, me and you both said last week we may be more okay with a transgendered person competing as a female in a non-tested event where the born females can use drugs to
get stronger,
and to equal the playing field a little bit. So the USAPL being 100% drug tested, I feel like it's
kind of fair, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I feel like they're doing the best they can for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and also, aren't they officially tied with the Olympics?
Like, no. So Powerlifting of America is now.
Oh, okay.
If you remember, the International Olympic Committee kicked the USAPL out because supposedly the USAPL's drug standards were different than the IOC's drug testing standards.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, the USAPL was actually testing more strictly than other members of the IOC. But anyway, because it wasn't the same standard and because USAPL was unwilling to change, they were removed from the International Olympic Committee, and now America's entry into that is Powerlifting of America.
But wasn't that was pretty recent, right? That was
that was in 2021, 2022. Yeah.
Okay, so not 2018 when this was going on.
No.
So that's another thing to consider. In 2018 was the Olympics allowing transgendered male to female to compete in female sports.
That would have been a year for 2018 would have been a year for Winter Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
It's an off year, so we wouldn't have had anybody competing in Olympic weightlifting, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another kind of gray area. But as far as I know, the IOC does not allow it.
Right. So if that's the case, then kind of makes sense, right? Because if the IOC doesn't allow transgendered, then why would the Powerlifting Association that is tied to the Olympics allow it?
Yeah, I understand that. I will say this, though, and by the way, the IOC governs the World Games, and that's the entry to powerlifting. We know that powerlifting is not a part of the Olympics. But the International Olympic Committee does govern both the World Games, which powerlifting is a part of, and the Olympics, which Olympic lifting is a part of. So just to clarify that. I don't know why it would matter. Here's what I keep going back to in my mind. Like, we can share our opinions about whether or not it's fair or anything else. In Minnesota, I don't know if you followed the news the past few years, but Minnesota, there's plenty of fucked up things happening in Minnesota. And honestly, I have opinions on things that have happened in Minnesota that have happened on both sides of the aisle, and I would probably surprise you with some of those things. The George Floyd situation took place in Minnesota. I'm of the opinion that man did not deserve to die under any circumstances. It's not a police officer's job to kill anybody if they can avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
People shouldn't know. It doesn't matter if he was a good man or not.
Right.
Man shouldn't have died at the hand of a police officer, right? That's not a very popular opinion here in the state of Alabama, especially if you talk to another white person.
Right.
But that's the fact. Police ain't supposed to fucking kill people.
Yeah. Only time it's supposed to be allowed, right, is if
there's imminent danger.
Right, if a civilian is in imminent danger or they themselves are in imminent danger.
Yeah, they wasn't.
He was handcuffed and on the ground. So there was really...
He wasn't killing nobody. He wasn't harming nobody. And that's his history has nothing to do with it. And oh, by the way, the cop that killed him had a rap sheet longer than George Floyd did.
Yeah.
So, it just is what it is. But my point with all that, not trying to rehash old news, my point with all that is Minnesota has been a fucking just fucking launching pad for some political just fucking bullshit. And we are not talking about something as serious as a man's life being taken at the hand of a shitty police officer.
Right.
We're talking about somebody that was born man wanting to compete as a female in a USAPL powerlifting event that's drug tested. Everything else. Maybe the way around this is to test for all exogenous hormones, including estrogen.
Yeah.
And not just performance enhancing. I mean, because then you can say, yeah, you can be transgendered, but
right, but you'll be banned for taking exogenous hormones.
Yeah, you're going to be banned for taking exogenous hormones. I mean,
I think that just even if they
it's
do
even
that,
more fair though than if they do that and then they're not taking them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's true. Yeah,
because then they are literally just a man.
Yeah,
everything about them,
like we just talked about in the past podcast, what happened in Canada. I mean, it's the
same thing as just me just deciding I'm competing as a woman that day.
Yeah. I guess the only reason why it would be weird, like, how could they test for estrogen in that, like if a woman competes, they already have estrogen in their body, so like,
I mean, we already have testosterone in our body,
right?
They're testing it for X amount per X amount of blood, so how many ever units per how much ever blood they're testing for. So you can't exceed whatever that number is. You can't exceed so many parts of that hormone per how many ever parts of blood they take.
I guess
or urine. In this case, we're talking about urine tests. So.
Right. Well, how do you manage that number? How do you figure out? Well, it needs to be this number based on.
I mean, that's a problem we've talked about before the transgender thing even become a topic. That's a problem we've talked about in men's professional sports. And, I mean, it kind of can be just an arbitrary number, right?
Yeah.
Like we've talked about it. I can use the shit out of PEDs and still test in a normal range.
Mm-hmm.
I know my doctor's done it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I could go compete, drug tested all day long and be just pumped full of fucking gear.
Right.
And because my natural levels are that low, just ain't that fucking big of a deal. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So like, I do feel like that's the problem in general is it's just kind of it's just an arbitrary fucking thing. And it might be a number that doesn't change. It might be a hard number, but they just fucking threw that number out there, but they don't take into account that
some people have.
Yeah, I have naturally low testosterone, but I'm also, 6'3" and 250 plus pounds. And even if I didn't lift weights, I'd probably be a naturally strong human being.
Right.
You know what I mean? So so I mean that goes to show you too, though, that hormones, from a physiological standpoint, aren't everything. Don't determine everything about
strength levels
or manhood or womanhood.
Oh.
That's not the end all be all.
Right.
I mean, I've had, we've talked about, I started a TRT because I had a medical need for it. Probably onset by the fact that I had an eating disorder through puberty. My body basically never produced enough testosterone. Well, if you look at it from that point of view, like, I mean, if hormones was the only thing, how did I get to be who I am? You know what I mean? If that was the only factor, like, I'm still very much a male, despite having had low testosterone. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the hairiest son of a bitch you've ever seen before in your life. I mean, like, maybe next to you.
Me and Wes are pretty hairy.
Y'all are pretty goddamn hairy people.
We're also Italians, so.
I mean, it is what it is. But, I mean, I don't know, man. I do think there's more that factors into this. That being said, I went on this rant last time. Social media is making this look like a more common issue than it is. This is not something that's happening at every powerlifting meet in America every single weekend. This is very, very, very finite numbers of occurrences and very, very finite numbers of people. And because it's a fucking story, it's fucking clickbait. These people are getting pissed off and they're whining to somebody in some news organization. And of course, the story's going to get picked up because people get up in arms about it, whether you're for it or against it. Somebody's bitching about it. You're going to read the article, whether you're for it or against it. It's going to give you something to bitch and moan about, whether you want them to lift or don't want them to lift. But people really do fail to realize it's always every news organization. If you look at the New York Post, which is conservative, I don't know if Fox carried it or not. I'm sure like local Fox networks probably did, right? But like, even if you look at, doesn't matter if it's a conservative or a liberal news organization, like It's still the same fucking clickbait.
Mm-hmm.
It's the truth. And they're still trying to perpetuate this issue. Conservatives want you to think that's happening every weekend because they want you to be up in arms about it, and they want you to be scared for your daughter that she's going to go get beat by a biologically born male.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. The fact of the matter is, it's not fucking happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So what I have resolved to, since we started this conversation, is it really just doesn't fucking make a difference to me because it's such a small, finite number of people at this point.
Yeah.
Is it bullshit? Sure. But it's only a bullshit 0.5% of the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Until there's men showing up every weekend to compete against my girls and my wife and everybody else, the fact of the matter is it's not.
I guess
it's so finite, man. It's so finite.
It is, but I guess what I think about is how long is it going to be finite? How long is it going to be before it becomes every man is like, oh, I don't even have to lift and I can go out and compete against these girls, right? Like, or I barely have to lift, or these people are like, oh, I can go out there and set all these records, like. You know what I mean? Like, how long before we get to that point? And then what do we do about it?
I think, honestly, what it's going to take is, I think it's going to have to take a sport other than powerlifting suffering from this. And it can't be swimming either.
Obviously.
Like, the Leah Thomas thing was a huge deal. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a huge deal. But again, it was basically just fucking clickbait. Like, nobody's, I'm sure that it's a niche sport like powerlifting is. I'm sure that the people that enjoy watching competitive swimming probably really enjoy it, but let's be honest, if you're never going to see it prime time unless it's the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to see it prime time on ESPN.
Right.
It's always going to be baseball, basketball, football.
So basically, period. The only
what I'm saying is, what it's going to take is it's going to take
the WNBA.
It's going to take a man retiring from the NBA, transitioning, and going and competing in the WNBA, and rubbing somebody's fucking face in it before everybody sits back and goes, "Wow, this fucking sucks."
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna change as long as it's just happening in powerlifting and swimming and fringe sports.
Right.
When some monster of a running back, if Derrick Henry decides, he's done with the NFL and wants to go compete in the lingerie football league as a woman, and he ends up physically harming other women on the football field. That's what it would take. It would take something like that.
Right.
And that's probably not a stretch because you can take the Tuscaloosa out of the you can take the boy out of Tuscaloosa, but you can't take the Tuscaloosa out of the boy. So it is what it is. But in all seriousness, it's going to take somebody just incredibly talented retiring due to injury or whatever it may be, and deciding that they want to get back in it and transitioning just to do it, and they're going to have to see women be physically fucking harmed over it. Fighting sports, I don't think the UFC is a very, very, very conservative organization. I don't think Dana White's ever going to let somebody that was a naturally born man compete against a female. Yeah. But there are other fighting organizations too. And also, because this is on everybody's mind and everybody's, everybody's got an opinion about it. It's on the tips of everybody's tongues. One of these smaller fight organizations might actually make themselves a lot of money by saying, yeah, we'll do Here's this retired UFC fighter that now identifies as a woman. Mm-hmm. Let's put him in a sports bra and let's, trot him out there to go fight one of our best girls. It's going to take something extreme like that for people to wake up and be like, oh fuck, this is messed up. This is extremely fucking serious.
Yeah. I feel like it definitely would take contact sports, right? It
would take football. Fighting, football, basketball. Yeah. Yeah. It would take one of those three. Right. Absolutely. It might not matter as much in women's basketball as I think it does because we talked about how much truer of a form of basketball the WNBA is anyway. Mm-hmm. They set up offensive and defense is better. It's a better team sport than men's basketball is. So maybe it wouldn't matter so much. That could equalize the raw talent of a single individual. But I think it would. Yeah. I think it would take something extreme like that. I mean, Mike Trout decides he wants to transition and go play, Olympic softball with women. Yeah, well, that
is Olympic softball a thing?
Is it not? I know that they have international teams. It might not be in the Olympics.
I don't know.
It's probably not in the Olympics, but there is international teams. Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna go play professional women's softball. They say a fast pitch softball is harder to hit than a professional thrown baseball, and that may be true. Doesn't change the fact that the ball's bigger. Mike Trout's the best hitter on the planet, and the bases are 60 foot apart instead of 90 foot apart. And oh, by the way, the outfield wall is a lot closer than it is in Major League Baseball. So the guys hitting basically hitting pop flies and still knocking them out of the park because the shit's smaller.
Yeah,
it's just smaller. So maybe he doesn't hit as often, but they're still leaving the fucking park when it happens. you know what I mean? Like, but it's going to take something to where the difference in physical stature is overwhelming and obvious.
Right. I guess there's a lot. I don't know. I guess because there's so many different weight classes in powerlifting that it is kind of easier to like look over it and be like, oh, well, they're the same weight, or they're, stuff like that maybe people don't look at. But I don't know. When I think about it, I think of like Heather Connor and like Jessica Bettner. Well, Jessica Bettner's not small, but Heather Connor like being like a tiny.
I did come up with a solution to this potentially. If they're going to continue to compete in powerlifting and continue to compete as women in powerlifting, where women get a benefit on their dots or wilks for being a woman, if you are a born man competing as a woman and you identify as a female now, you should no longer get that credit. You should have to put in your dot score as a man should be the dots that's entered into your competitive field for women.
And that works for total, I guess. Like,
well, that works for lifter of the day, yeah.
But it doesn't
protect the weight class.
It doesn't protect the weight class. It doesn't protect the state records, the national records. There's still all that that's at stake, basically. That's
a pretty fucking easy compromise, though. It takes them, on professional level meets. It takes them out of the money.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, you get to compete as a female, but you have to retain your male dot score.
Yeah. Or at least have it changed because you are taking female hormones. So maybe there's some sort of
maybe it's maybe there's a new factor put into the dots to contribute to that. But I know that one side of the aisle is going to whine that they should be getting credit for that, not credit taken away from that.
Right.
But I think the most fair thing is that they get credit taken away from their dot scores based on the fact that they spent half their life training as a man.
Yeah. I'm just going to read a couple of the comments because we posted on our page about the last episode and just to kind of like a little bit of audience engagement, I guess, to let them know that we do read their comments. But in regards to this, I don't know if they want me to say their usernames, but I'm going to say their usernames anyway.
Yeah, the username is better than their full name, probably. Yeah.
So Amber's case said, no, they need 3 groups, men, women, and others. Man's body is built differently. Even if you identify as a woman, it's still different. Same as a woman who identifies as a man, which I think we talked about that last time. You're not seeing a lot of
disadvantage
for women, for a male to woman transition, but men aren't real worried about a female to male transition at all because
they're going to get beat. Period.
Probably. I mean, other than like inexperienced lifters.
Maybe some extremely lightweight classes. We're talking about 123, 132.
Yeah. But
women are typically stronger in those weight classes.
Yeah. But like in a general sense, I don't think men are as worried about that. So this is, I mean, it is a fair point to say that, but just in fairness though, that men aren't super worried about it.
I don't think so. No, absolutely not.
Someone, well, I'm not going to read that one, actually. I'm going to skip down. Darth Morgan had a very long rant, but essentially said it's unfair.
She's trained her whole life as a woman to do these things. Sucks to see somebody go there and take it from her, basically. Yeah,
added powerlifting it was to advance her status in the Army, right?
Yeah, basically she started powerlifting to improve her ACFT score. Yeah. Which is their new physical fitness test that has a ball throw, has a trap bar deadlift, has a dummy drag. It's a little bit more weightlifting oriented than your standard. We're going to run 2 miles. We're going to do push-ups. We're going to do sit-ups.
Yeah.
It's a more athletic test, to be honest with you. So.
TAM 5899. My input: women's sports are about to not exist if this continues to be allowed. Proving point or not, there now stands a new women's record not set by a woman. Which, I mean, I think we kind of, that was specifically at I forget his name.
Abby Silverberg competing as a woman.
Yeah,
to prove a point, but that his record is legal. If Canada's government, who supports all this shit, and is honestly tyrannical when it comes to their level of socialism, if they really want to put their money where their mouth is, they will protect his record.
Yeah,
if it goes far enough for it to be,
at least nationally recognized.
Yeah, I mean, if it goes so far that it goes to court, by their own standard and by their own admission, they should let his record stand.
Yeah.
In the female category, because otherwise, why are you standing up for these people?
Right. Otherwise, it's really hypocritical.
Because it's not just trans people that you're supposed to be protecting. It's also pansexual people, non-binary people, and stuff like that. Gender fluid people who identify as different things every day. There's no guarantee that Abby doesn't just come out and say, "Hey, I'm gender fluid. I identify as different things depending on how I feel."
Yeah.
In which case, what does the Canadian government do? They're going to really take that record away from him?
Right.
It'd be pretty fucking hypocritical.
Yeah.
Give it back to the naturally born man that he beat.
Right.
To take the women's record. Pretty fucking slippery slope for Canada, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
By the way, fuck that government. By the way. Fuck Canada. Not the Canadians, but fuck Canada.
Yeah. I've met a few Canadians that were really cool.
Yeah, I'm sure they're great. I'm sure it's great people, and I'm sure that they're incredibly fed up with it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, look at all the fucking, all the, the trucker protests and shit in Canada and everything. That's fucking proof that the majority of the people in that fucking country hate this shit.
Right.
So it just is what it is. Fuck Canada. The government.
The government. How about just fuck the government?
Yeah, at large.
Just in general, like.
I'm going to go back to this, man. I'm really not a bigot. I think these people have a place in powerlifting. I want them to have a place in powerlifting. I don't want any human being to come to me in any situation and not feel like whatever I'm doing as a professional makes them feel like they're not at home. I told you I would 100% coach one of these people. I would support them in any way, shape, or fashion. That's really, really, really not an issue. But I really do think that a lot of the problem is we've gotten so far away from what the majority in a democratic nation wants versus what very, very small, when I say minorities, we're not talking about racial minorities. We're talking about, sexual, religious, those type of minorities. We've shifted to what the most tiny minorities want the most, and that's literally the opposite of democracy. Majority is supposed to rule. It is what it is. Those people should feel safe. They should have a place. I want them to have a place. They deserve rights. But the fact of the matter is, there's not enough of them for them to be getting to make these calls. Right.
That makes sense. That's.
There's not enough of them to make these calls.
Right.
Should they have rights? Should they be protected? Absolutely. But the majority is suffering because of the minority now. That's a shame. Right? Yeah. It's a shame, right? I don't know. It's crazy. It's just crazy to me that so few opinions can matter so much.
Yeah,
because you really are talking about less than 1% of the population that are experiencing this living through it.
Right, and like I just went through and read off, and that was just a few comments. We didn't get a ton of comments, but all those were from women who were upset about.
None of these are men coming out and saying something bigoted and saying some stupid shit about how much they hate this community or anything like that. It was all women. None of which said that they were upset about these people being trans. None of them said they don't deserve rights. None of them said that they're subhuman. None of them made any bigoted comments whatsoever.
None of them even said that they didn't deserve to be in powerlifting. Like
they just said they didn't deserve to be in women's powerlifting.
Exactly, and I think that all goes back to having 3 classes when it comes to gender.
The problem with that is it's just never going to happen that way because that's not what those people want.
Yeah. And
they legitimately believe that they should get to compete as a natural with natural born women.
And that's also like something you said before. I think it was last episode. There's just not enough of them to be a third class.
There's not. Yeah, exactly. Why even fucking have it? Yeah. Because there's not enough of them, right? But also, I think what you're actually people hide this issue behind social justice because I want these people to have rights and everything too. But they hide this issue behind social justice because, it's a trans woman just wanting to be a woman and get to compete in women's things. That's not what it is. You're talking about a male ego that is not dead in that person yet. You're literally talking about a male. You're literally just talking about a man that just wants to go fucking win at something for the first time in his life. You're talking about somebody that, like, whether or not they actually want to be a woman is beside the fact. That is, they have not killed their male ego. That's what that really is. If you're a trans woman, you have transitioned from male to female, and you want to go compete as a woman, and you really think that's where you should be, that's because your male ego has not fucking died. You think you have a competitive advantage, and you can go set records. Period.
Yep.
You talk about toxic masculinity, that's pretty goddamn toxic.
That's fair.
When you're willing to literally swap teams so you can go win at something, like, come on. Like, fuck. Like, I'm cool. If you want to be a woman, I'm cool with it. I'm not going to disrespect you. Everybody can be whatever they want to be.
Like a cow or a dinosaur.
Like a cow or a dinosaur. But anybody can be anything they want to be. But if you're really going to go get in go participate in competitively in women's sports, that's because your male ego isn't fucking dead yet.
Yeah.
Maybe you should up that fucking E dose. Honestly. Like, that's I will not change my mind about that.
I mean, that's I had never thought about it that way, but that makes a ton of sense.
Listen, man, I'm in powerlifting. One of the reasons I'm in powerlifting from the same exact token, I was not an athlete in school. By education and by experience, I'm a musician through and through. I can't dribble a basketball. I'm actually pretty good at football. Can't dribble a fucking basketball. I have no fucking baseball skills. I've never been on a soccer field before in my fucking life. Like, the only sport I've ever cared about or had any interest in was football and some combat sports. I'm not a fucking athlete. But there is inherently a male need to be physically competitive with other people. It is an instinctual thing to want to go be good at something. Go be strong at something physical. And powerlifting gave me that, and that's why I'm in powerlifting. I am in powerlifting to say that I am stronger than you. And that is not to my detriment. That is because it fucking helps me mentally. It helps me feel like I've accomplished something in my life. It keeps me fucking relevant. And that's a really, really important thing. So that's how I know for a fact that they're grasping at straws, trying to find a new way to be relevant. These are probably men with sub 1,200 pound totals that want to go be fucking relevant at something.
Yeah.
Period. I told you, like, we talked about last week. We have two men in the room that total 1,500 plus pounds. It is, you total way more than that now. But 1,500 for a man is painfully fucking average. We couldn't come up with more than a half dozen women that total 1,500 pounds last week when we discussed this.
Yep.
Which is a fucking incredible feat for women, and every one of those women deserve it, and they're fucking awesome. But, like, you're talking about a major discrepancy in strength. There are two men on this planet now that total 2,500 plus pounds raw. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's just, it is apples to oranges, man. Like, 1,000 pound total as a female is a big fucking deal. A 1,200 pound total as a female is a really fucking big deal. Anything from 1,200 to 15 is like you're competing on international stages, period.
Right.
And this is probably regardless of your weight class. So, like, the thought that a very painfully average male, even after hormone therapies, if you total 1,500 pounds, and if you take a 300 pound hit, you only total 12, you're still an elite female competitor.
Mm-hmm.
A very average man to an elite female competitor. It's not the fucking same.
Yep.
It's not.
I don't have anything to add. I think it's just like,
listen, I'm weak as fuck right now. I have started TRT back, so I feel a little bit better. I can go total 1,200 pounds with the fucking flu.
Mm-hmm.
Any day of the week, I can be completely fucking untrained. I can go total 1,200 pounds with the flu. I am a very average powerlifter.
You think about that? That's 5, 4, and 3.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That's a 500 deadlift, 400 squat, 300 bench. That's relatively easy for the both of us to just walk up and just be like,
those are like, 10, 15 rep maxes.
Yeah. Like, I'm doing all
You're
those
no longer
numbers.
an average powerlifter, but like, yeah, I'm an average powerlifter, and those are numbers I can do for fucking 10 to 15 reps.
Yeah. It's just average, like it's rep work. It's hypertrophy work.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not going out there and competing at an RP 11. Like,
I don't know. I'll say it again. If somebody wants to come to me and they want to be trained, I will fucking train them. Just like with the bench press arch, just like with sumo. If you come to me as a client, we'll take advantage of whatever rules are there in the short term. But what you won't do is you will not compete against your female teammates. Mm-hmm. You will never compete. As long as I'm your coach, you will never compete against a teammate. At least in your weight class. Mm-hmm. You're never going to fucking do it. And you will compete non-tested. Those are my two. I will, with a smile on my face, treat them no different, good as gold, take them under my wing, be their friend, whatever they need, but they will not compete against their female teammates, period.
One thing I would ask, and it's just kind of like more of my own curiosity. You said not in the same weight class. But what if that transgender person got first lifter of the day, but your other girl got second lifter of the day?
That would probably piss me off.
Like
we might have, that's a good point, and having that conversation, we might have that conversation going into it and be like, listen, if you beat this person out, you need to at least fucking buy them a beer, buy them dinner, do something fucking for them. And I can be very very, very candid about that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily right at that point to take it away from them, because it's the rules. It's not the person that's bullshit. That's the big deal about all this. Mm-hmm. It's not the transgendered person that's bullshit. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Yeah. We don't have an issue. What's bullshit is the rules.
Yep.
And honestly, at this point, as much of a mockery as we can make of bullshit rules, the more likely those rules are to change.
Yeah.
So, like, if somebody wanted to come train with me, we would go make a mockery of their bullshit rules.
Yeah.
Period. If Austin Blair, he'd be the funniest one to do it. If Austin Blair came with me tomorrow, he'd be like, hey, let's go set some female records. Baby, let's go. Let's go.
He has said that before.
We will. Yeah, he has joked about that often. But a real transgender, if they came to me, we will take advantage of any rules that's in place. But you're not going to shit on your teammate's head. Yeah. That's for sure. I mean, that's all there is to it. They are welcome and open to come train with me. I will take very, very good care of them. But again, it's not the person that's bullshit. It's the rules that's bullshit.
Yep.
I ain't got an issue with the person. Be whatever you want to be, and I believe that. I'm not going to make fun of you. I'm not going to take anything away from you. You're not going to be belittled. You're going to have a safe place with me if you're one of these people and you want to train in powerlifting. Mm-hmm. And we will take advantage of whatever rules are in place for the time being. But just know my honest to God opinion about it is you're not the problem, but the rules are a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Period.
I think that's what most people have settled on, honestly, is that it's nobody has issues with these people competing.
Yeah, I have heard very little. You can probably find some, but I've heard very little bigoted remarks about actual transgender people.
Yeah.
Most people are just like, they need their own class. They need to be in non-tested divisions. They have opinions similar to ours and similar to the girls that responded. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody has said these people don't have rights. These people don't deserve to be in powerlifting. Powerlifting community is better than that, man.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody wants these people out of powerlifting. Mm-hmm. I don't.
I think,
you know what I mean? I don't want them out of powerlifting. I just think there's got to be a better way than what's what's happening now.
I think 90% of powerlifting community is pretty open and welcoming to anybody that wants to compete, because that's just kind of the mentality of powerlifting. There's like a bunch of people got together and like just wanted to get strong and make.
Yeah, I mean, I know powerlifters from very, very different walks of life. Mm-hmm. Tim Andrews is a fucking accountant, dog.
Yep.
He don't look like me. He's buttoned up, professional dude, clean shaven. Like, he don't fucking look like me.
Nope.
Me and Austin look like fucking hood rats. We're covered in tattoos. We're big dudes. We look like we're powerlifters. Mm-hmm. I mean, I got girls that are in the Army. I've got girls in their 60s. I got men in their 60s. I got men in their 50s. All of them do fucking something different for work. I got, you know, he's not one of mine now. He's with Lentini, but Josh Smith is fucking butcher. Mm-hmm. Covered in tattoos. Yeah. I got everybody from literally, think about like Alexa Morton, people that work in restaurants, to fucking accountants and fucking lawyers doing this shit. Gay, straight, in between, any number of races, anything that you want to talk about. Like, powerlifting is a very open and accepting sport, and everybody thinks these people need a place. Mm-hmm. But the rules are a fucking problem. Yeah. That's the truth. The rules are a problem.
Yeah, that's just what it boils down to. Is just there, and I think what it's gonna take for powerlifting, not necessarily all of the other sports in the world, that I think I agree with you, where it's going to take something physical, contact or combat sport of a woman just getting like absolutely destroyed by a man. It's going to take for the rest of the world to see, but for powerlifting, I think it's just going to take more transgendered people in powerlifting to implement a third class.
That's the thing, though. There's not enough transgendered people
to constitute a third class.
Does it happen more often than it used to? Probably. But it's also just covered more than it used to be.
Yeah.
Truthfully.
Yeah.
The precedents for Minnesota, the judge in Minnesota having made this ruling against the USAPL, was a bill or a law that passed in like 1993, mm-hmm. a discrimination law.
Yep.
This is old fucking news. It's just that it's getting jammed. Mainstream media jams it down your fucking throat now. Mm-hmm. I would be willing to bet that there's a pretty large portion of the transgender community that recognizes the fact that, and probably would be willing to talk about the fact that maybe this is a little bit unfair. Yeah. Shit, the girl that Abby Silverberg beat.
Yep, of her own
admission. And her own admission said, maybe it's not that fair for me to compete against women. Mm-hmm. But she said she doesn't believe that she did women's sports a disservice. Mm-hmm. She believes that Abby did women's sports a disservice. Yeah. And he did intentionally to prove a point. Yeah. But by her own admission, it's not fair for her to be there.
Right.
And then in the very same breath tries to say that Abby's the one that made a mockery of mm-hmm. women's sports. Well, if you're admitting that it's not fair to be there,
right, then
you're a fucking mockery too.
Yeah.
God.
Why are you there? Why, if you think it's unfair, why are you there? Just so that you're relevant. Like you said, the male ego, right?
We're talking about literally. That's the reason why. That's another reason why, in my opinion, you don't see there is nothing in the news about women transitioning to manhood and then competing in sports and it being unfair. Mm-hmm. Probably because they're fucking not, because they probably are accepting of the fact that they are at a disadvantage when mm-hmm. they do that. Also, partially because there is no currently, or at least biologically, there is no male ego to destroy there.
Right. Yeah.
There is a refusal to let go of male ego. It is literally the textbook definition of toxic masculinity. And because of the type of people doing it, people will recognize it as a social justice thing and not men are literally being shitheads and taking advantage of people thing. Because that's what's happening, honestly.
Long story short, men have big, fragile egos, and they will take advantage of anything they can to get ahead.
I believe
Old news.
Old fucking news. But I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
We talked about this too. If transgender people were probably I would imagine less than 1%, but I bet it's definitely less than 5% mm-hmm. of the entire community. And there's probably less of them than that are participating in powerlifting.
Yeah.
I bet there's a pretty goddamn big contingency of those people that don't agree with what we're doing either.
Yeah.
We're talking about a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of people.
Yeah.
Fighting for this.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious.
We're talking about somebody as an individual that's like 1 in 200 million.
Yeah.
You know
I'm
what I mean?
actually
Like,
curious on the numbers. If it was possible to find the numbers and like be like, there are literally this many people currently competing in powerlifting that are male to female transgender. I wonder if you could find that number. Just
it's probably too fucking finite.
I mean, it'd be hard, right? Because you don't see it all over the place, and like the only way I could even think to find it is to search transgender powerlifter, and then you're probably only going to find the news articles that are covering it. You're not going to actually find the athletes who are like under the radar doing it, right?
Well, I'm sure you're going to have a bunch of bullshit articles too if you look up statistics on it about how X amount of the population want to identify one way and don't and everything like that. Those are fucking bullshit numbers. That's fucking speculation at fucking best, dude. Mm-hmm. At best, that's speculation.
Yeah.
The actual people that are involved with this, like I said, we're talking about a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. This isn't fucking happening often. And that's the reason I honestly, I'm starting to become of the opinion that we're wasting our breath on this. One, because it doesn't happen often enough. And two, because we're basically just biting on fucking clickbait.
Yeah.
I really don't know at the heart of the matter there's not much fucking story. I don't think there's much fucking story here. It's fucking egregious and it feels bad and everything like that. And you look at it that way, but it's happening on such a fucking small scale that I feel like we're just getting mad about nothing. Both sides.
Yeah.
I think you're getting fucking mad about nothing. If the rules are there to accommodate you in this situation, I guess good for you. You know what I mean? But you're such a small amount of the population that you're probably, let's be honest, you're probably not going to nationals. You're probably not competing internationally. Doesn't fucking matter anyway. Some girls locally are going to be upset, and they probably have every right to be upset. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure we should be wasting any more breath on this.
I think that's fair.
I mean, because the fact of the matter is it's not going to change until somebody's feelings get hurt on a national televised fucking level.
Yeah.
Like I said, something's going to have to happen in combat sports, football, basketball, before any of this changes.
Yeah.
Period.
I think I can agree with that.
Not saying, the conversation is always fun, stuff like that, but honestly, it's just not worth being mad about, and it doesn't happen often enough, especially here in the state of Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're below the Mason-Dixon line. You're talking about a percent of a percent of a percent of a percent. You're talking about way on fucking down the line. It'd be 1 in a million, 1 in fucking 20 million probably to even see one of these people at a fucking powerlifting meet.
Yeah, if you're thinking about the, like you said, the Mason-Dixon line, they're probably traveling to compete if they're competing. And at that point, why are you traveling to Alabama to compete? Why are you trying?
They probably fucking aren't.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to come all the way down here. They're going to compete at something local. And they're
most likely.
And there's probably just any, and I can't say that I know any transgendered people personally, but any gay person that I know, they don't give a shit about powerlifting.
No, fuck no. I mean, one of my best friends is gay, and I'm sure he'd probably be very upset about some of my opinions on this podcast because he's very liberally minded, and that's fine. He literally thinks that powerlifting is a sport for fat people, and you cannot convince him that there is a weight class less than super heavyweight. It's not possible to convince this man that 132-pound male powerlifters exist. It's not possible. He is 100% hell bent on powerlifters are fat. That's a sport for fat people. That's his view of it.
I would just point at a few people like Russ Swole.
Was built like a brick shit house. Fucking Dan Grigsby, who's a heavy guy and still built well. Larry Wills was a fucking 308 at one time and sub 10% body fat. Mm-hmm. You can point it out all you want to, but that is his perception of it. You know what I mean? He's aware. It's been pointed out to him. My wife, who's very fit, I'm like, well, Sandy's a powerlifter. Mm. Still a sport for fat people. It's the only way he fucking perceives it. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's it. So, I mean, It is. I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
I guess that is probably the general population's view of powerlifting, right?
Because I mean, everybody still has the bigger, faster, stronger powerlifting in them. You know what I mean? West Side barbell, everything's fucking multiply. They're gonna put on some dumb balloony suit and bench press something that's not possible for a human being to bench press because they have more assistance than they do muscle. I'm just messing with you. Shit don't multiply now. It is what it is. But everybody has that. Everybody has that. I think everybody outside of powerlifting has that view of it.
Yeah.
And it's perpetuated by the fact that Westside was the first powerlifting gym to start teaching powerlifting to the masses, and that was Mark Bell and Louis Simmons taught it to CrossFit gyms.
Yep.
Taught conjugate to CrossFit gyms. That's how it's was developed. So I'm sure that perpetuated that fact.
And by his own admission, and Mark Bell was a fat guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was. Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, it was...
Not anymore.
Not anymore, by no means.
He's absolutely ripped now.
But yeah, I mean, you're seeing... people have their own perceptions of powerlifting, and it is what it is. And I just don't think powerlifting is not big enough of a sport to change this conversation.
Yeah.
Period. So I'm going to tell you again, it's going to have to happen on some national level sport. Yeah. Period. I don't think it can happen in soccer. I think competition's too even. I think it's kind of like basketball in a sense that I think women are a little bit better at setting up offenses and defenses, and it may be a little pure version of the sport. That I don't know that one individual is going to make that big of a difference on a soccer field.
It's also a non-contact sport, so
yeah. I mean, they'll try to tell you it's contact, but they come within 5 foot of each other and they're like flying back, flopping. That's the biggest. Soccer is the single worst fucking thing on the planet. And like everybody that fucking likes that shit. Y'all fucking weak.
Sorry to every European listener ever.
Fucking soccer, and it's soccer.
The name did originate from a version of soccer. I can't remember the actual name, but it was something close to soccer that we in America adopted as soccer. And then they changed it to football.
So you don't even know the name of your own fucking sport. It's soccer.
I've said that before on the podcast.
I know.
Because I learned that, and I was like, that's really fascinating.
More like sucker. It is what it is. But, I mean, I don't think you're going to see it. I think maybe basketball, with it being, only 5 people, 10 people total on the court at a time, maybe it would be that way. But I think it would probably take... I mean, I would still include basketball, but I think it's going to take, football, a combat sport, or basketball.
I think at that point, if that's what we're basing it on, I don't think there's any, women's football league that is big enough to make an impact.
Well, no, there's not. I mean, there's the LFL, but I mean, people watch it for TNA. They don't watch it for quality games.
It'd have to be combat sports. It'd have to be...
Yeah, its own combat sports to probably change it, to be honest. Yeah, I think so. Thinking about another point about basketball, though, is how quickly the men run the court versus...
yeah, that is fair.
Man, the NBA can be... They transition so fast, it's dizzying to go from one side of the court to the other. And the pace in which that game is played, passes are made... it's just mind-boggling. It's really cool sport. That could be an issue. Yeah, probably that could be something that really fast breaks, point scored in transition is something that's probably where somebody that was formerly a male could probably dominate. Yeah, especially if they were a tall person.
That's true,
with some speed under them. Rebounds is another thing. You get somebody that's you have some extremely tall women in the WNBA. I understand. Some nearly 7 foot, but by and large, they are not that tall. You get a man that's 6'9" or better that is transitioning. Talk about a disadvantage in rebounds. God almighty. You have a 7 foot former man rebounding for you. The second chances you'd get offensively on offensive boards, and how quick transitions would happen defensively when you get a defensive board would just be... I feel like the more I think about that, the deeper that hole gets, to be honest with you.
That's fair. Yeah.
Especially if there's somebody with some height. It gets pretty fucking slippery pretty quick. But
I don't know. I do think I will say this. I think this probably needs to be the last episode about it.
Yeah.
And we had this news story about the USAPL come out. USAPL, I think, by and large, most of the powerlifting community thinks they're fuckheads anyway, and nobody really cares what happens to the USAPL at this point. But
that's two powerlifting federations people have stopped giving a shit about.
Yeah, we're not. I mean, powerlifting at large is not doing itself any fucking favors.
Well, I wouldn't say the sport of powerlifting. It's not the powerlifting organizations
are not doing us any fucking favors.
Oh, well, I guess we ran out of video feed.
We ran out of video feed, and I think it's about time to wrap it up.
No. So for anyone watching, sorry, you get a black screen for the rest of this.
Yeah.
You get the Spotify experience now.
Yeah. Enjoy listening. Dad jokes.
I mean, we had a lot already.
We had a lot on the front end.
We kind of like blew up the front end, but
yeah.
I mean, we could run one. I think we can do one apiece. I think that'll be. We always got to end it on a dad joke. End it a little lighthearted. Let's see what we can find. I know I just saw one that I liked on Dad Says Jokes. At Dad Says Jokes for all your dad joke needs.
We'll go to Dad Says Jokes too. Oh, you know what? I got that new one.
You got a new one?
Yeah, what's the name of that? There's any videos from him.
I can't remember, but I know you did. But
Mad TV.
Okay. So over the weekend, I took my wife to the theater to see a performance that was all about puns. It was a play on words.
There you go.
That's mine for the day.
Boy, this one's rough. I feel like I'm making fun of my own people to some extent. I'm going to pretend this one just solely applies to the Crimson and White side of the state, and not the rest of the state. What do you call a virgin in Alabama?
I don't know.
An orphan.
Damn. Damn.
Well, we've dropped that bomb. Y'all have a good night. Hey guys, welcome to the Sip It and Run It podcast. I'm the Lick-a-Lot-of-Puss.
I'm just, I'm a cow with no udders.
We gotta start that again. I had a joke prepped, so I couldn't get it out.
It's okay. Breathe. You'll be all right.
I was going to call you the Dairy Delight. Hey guys, welcome to the Sip It and Rip It podcast. I'm the Lick-a-Lot-of-Puss. This 240-pound man, all grade A beef right here, is who would like to call the Dairy Delight.
You tried so hard.
I did. Triceratops. Oh, man.